Yeah, sorry to keep everyone waiting here, running a few minutes behind this morning. So appreciate your patience. Um, you know, uh, we're winding down here. On training camp. Sunday is actually the last official day of camp. Roster decisions are in the on the very near horizon. So we'll be ready to work through that. In the next day, hours. So that's a process. Still, obviously, trying to get the team ready and continue to make progress towards being ready for the not only the Miami game but the entire regular season. So, gonna have a few balls in the air here, but I think the players have continued to push through it, and we're making progress. We just gotta keep stacking these days together. Last night was a good night for the team, good night for the organization for the kickoff event, and that always gives us the feeling that things are getting closer. And congratulations to David for his great unselfish off the field work and volunteerism for the organization. He's been a tremendous addition to our team for the last 6 years. So it's great to have him back after the time they missed last year. So just trying to, like I said, just trying to finish up some final training camp things that are on our list and with the roster, and then quickly transition into Miami, some of which we've already started on, but we'll be in full game preparation mode. Once we turn the corner this weekend. So, looking forward to getting started, and just try to keep having good days here.
We'll start with Ben Volin, followed by Doug Kyed.
Morning, Bill.
Hey, Ben.
Word came out yesterday that Cam Newton was named the starter. Just what have you seen from him throughout camp, and what does it say about him that?
Yeah, I'm not. We're not naming any. We're not naming any starters in any positions. So, any conversations that I have with the team will stay between me and the team. But we're not naming any roster starters or positions or who's on the team or anything else like that. So, well, sorry, I have to bypass that one.
Okay, let me ask you a quick follow-up about Cam. Obviously, over the years, he's a big physical player. Pretty rare size for a quarterback.
Yes.
Last couple seasons, he's had some injuries. Just what's your confidence level of his physicality and him being able to withstand the rigors of a 16-game schedule?
Yeah, well, he's certainly been a durable player. The injury last year was one of those kind of foot ankle injuries that we've seen take down players. It's a tough injury, and but so far I'd say he's been out there, with the exception of one day where he was excused for personal reasons. He's been out there every day. He's been able to participate in everything. So he's healthy. Looks like he's ready to go. But it's a long season. Anything could happen to anybody. We all know that. So we'll see how it goes.
Next question, Doug Kyed, followed by Mark Daniels.
Good morning, Bill. Just what went into the decision to name Cam Newton as an offensive captain, and how have you seen teammates respond to him?
Yeah, it wasn't a decision. The captains are voted on by the team, and the players that they elected are the players that they obviously want to represent them in various capacities that come with those positions. So, I think we have a lot of good leaders on our team. Some of them have been selected captains. I don't think that necessarily takes away from the leadership that many other players bring, and we get leadership from certainly other players and other areas of our team that don't show up with the captain designation. But we've had a long history and a great roster of captains here, and I think that the players that were selected this year have all displayed very impressive leadership qualities and are obviously well respected by their teammates. on both sides of the ball, and I think they're all good selections. But the leadership certainly extends past those positions, past the captain position, and it always has, and I'm sure it always will here. So I appreciate the leadership we get from everyone, and I'm looking forward to working with this year's group, which has a couple new faces in it, and some other captains that have been here for an extended period of time. So it's a good group. We've already had some opportunities to get together. So I look forward to the relationship with those guys in that capacity.
Next question, Mark Daniels, followed by Tara Sullivan.
Hey, Bill. Yesterday, the team released Mohamed Sanu. Just what went into the decision to part ways with the veteran?
Yeah, it's just one of those things that just didn't work out. I have a lot of respect for Mo, but ultimately it just, things just didn't work out. I think he tried very hard. I think we tried hard. I don't think it was anybody's fault or anything like that. It was just one of those situations that it just didn't work out as well as I think everyone hoped it would have when the transaction was made. So, as always, we'll try to make the decisions that we feel are best for the football team, whether that's bringing a person in or releasing a player. It's obviously it can go both ways, and so. At this point in time, we felt like that's best for the team. Last year we felt differently. We're in a little different situation this year.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Tara Sullivan, followed by Eden Kern.
Thank you. Bill, as you do turn the corner kind of toward the regular season, would you be able to pause even for a minute to sort of think about the perspective? I know every season is different for you, but just given all the circumstances surrounding this one, the virus protocols, new quarterback, things like that, does it feel even more different than seasons in the past?
Well, I think you said it. Every season's different, and what we're focused on right now is trying to put ourselves in the best position for the 2020 season. So, what happened in 2003 or 9 or 14 or 15 or whatever, I don't really. I mean, there were some lessons learned through the years, of course, but really I don't think those have any bearing on what happens this year. We have a different group of players. We have different challenges, and we have to identify and recognize the best way to maximize our opportunities as a football team in 2020, whether that's on the field, off the field, offense, defense, special teams, coaches, players, practice squad. And the rules change every year a little bit in one way or another, in some aspect of whether it's personnel rules or playing rules or whatever it might be. So that's just all part of the game. We control the things that we can control and work on the areas that we need to work on to improve and to be competitive and to make a difference. And so that's what we'll continue to do. So I'll let you compare one year to another. I'm just focused on this year and in particular how to make the best decisions and do the best thing that I can to help our team over the upcoming days. And every day is important. We want to take advantage of each one, but definitely the roster decisions and composition of the team and other potential player movement throughout the league. I mean, there's going to be well over 1,000 players that are going to be have some kind of transaction in the next couple days, and so there'll be some opportunities there, and we'll try to evaluate those and do what's best for the team.
Next question, Eden Kern, followed by Mike Reese.
Good morning, Bill. I'm curious, with practice squads expanding to 16 players, how that affects your team building strategy, and when it comes to either adding or removing players in the practice squad, do you give preference to adding the most talent to the practice squad, or do you prefer to add players with more familiarity that might already be on the team currently, that might not make the 53-man?
Yeah, well, that's a great question on the practice squad, and I think it really, Aiden, each situation's different, each player's different. I think when you put a player on the practice squad, I mean, first of all, there's a reason why he's on there. And that could be a number of different things. He could be a developmental player. He could be a player that, as you said, knows your system and maybe is more game ready than somebody else. It may be a player that, because of the depth on your 53-man roster, that you really need that player to practice, that you need that practice squad player to participate in practice so that you can maintain the quality of practice that you want the best you can, so that you can prepare your team for all the things that you need to prepare them for. So, it's, as you know, those some of those positions can fluctuate during the course of the year, depending on how the team needs, how those change and possibly how the players change. For example, if a developmental player starts to improve and develop, then his situation might change a little bit. Or if you have a developmental player that maybe isn't developing and you feel like you've given him enough time and you don't see the progress that maybe you hope for, then sometimes then you could move on to somebody else and work with another developmental player. So again, the bottom line is there's a reason and a purpose for each player to be on that on the practice squad, but they're not all the same, and it would depend on a number of factors that are specific to the individual player, but also the needs of the team and the depth of the team and your practice needs. So I'd say some kind of combination of all those.
And a quick follow-up, if you don't mind, with the fickle nature of this upcoming season, with the potential for any player to go on the COVID list at any moment, do you see the practice squad trending more towards a developmental style player, more towards a game-ready veteran style player?
Yeah, again, I think there's a place for both. It would depend on, again, a lot of the practice squad depends on, what you have on your 53-man roster. And so you can't really carry the depth that you want on your 53-man roster at all positions, but you will probably be fairly satisfied with it at some positions. So if you're satisfied with your depth at a certain position and your numbers are good and you feel like the quality is pretty good there, then I don't know how much you really need a practice squad player at that spot, because you'll want to give those reps in practice and those opportunities to the depth that you have on your roster. Whereas there could be another position on your roster where you don't have a lot of depth, and if you have a developmental player at that position and a player with some experience that maybe for whatever reason you don't feel is a roster player at this moment, but if something were to happen because of your lack of depth, he could quickly become a roster player, then you might carry 2 or 3 players at that position and none at another. So a lot of the practice squad is dependent on what you have above that on your 53-man roster. I think this year is a little bit different because we'll have to take into consideration the shorter injured reserve rules and also the unlimited DFRs. So that changes things a little bit too, and can kind of be combined with the practice squad to help the team's depth. So it's really a combination of all those. And again, because it's so fluid, I'm sure that'll change over the course of the year. So as your needs change on the team, that'll affect. I think it will probably affect your practice squad decisions as well. Now, the practice squad pool is going to be a little watered down when you add those extra players that the teams are able to have. It'll be interesting to see how many practice squad players this year. So in the past, there have been a certain group of players that have been excluded from practice squad because they haven't been eligible. This year, the eligibility rules have changed, and it'll be interesting to see whether that brings more of those type of players in there, the ones who would have been ineligible in other years, or whether it would be more of a continuation of, let's call it practice squad eligible guys, younger players with less experience, and so forth. So, I don't know. I'm sure there'll be both. There'll be some variance from team to team and position to position, and it'll be based on the 53 needs above it. But I think it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out. So again, when we put a player on the practice squad, it's for a reason, it's with a purpose, and that could be for a variety of things, but he would fill some type of need or potential need. That's what his role would be.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll apologize to those we don't get to, but we're going to try to squeeze in one, maybe two final questions. Mike Reese, followed by Bob Sosa. Go ahead, Mike.
Thanks. Bill, what is your view of the competition at kicker as we get close to crunch time here and setting the initial roster?
I think that is a pretty close gap, and it's a similar decision. I think that every team that I've ever been on has come up where you have a veteran player with experience and very accomplished career, with a younger player with potentially a long career ahead of him that has less experience and may, at this particular point in time, you just have to see where you feel like the competition is, but then also look at it and say, okay, well, where are things going to be halfway through the season? Where are things going to be a year from now, or maybe 2 years from now? And so that changes sometimes the evaluation. Now, those are projections, and there's no certainty there, but when you look at players that we've had on our team, James White would be a good example of a player that didn't play his rookie year. I think he was only active for a game or two. Obviously Brady never played. So if you evaluate some players where they are at one point in time and then evaluate them a year later, sometimes you can have a drastic change. And in those two cases, I'm glad we didn't make the decision based on where they were at the end of their rookie training camp, to not have them on our team on a longer term view. So now, not everybody falls into that category, but I'm saying, like, there's two good examples. Shane Vereen would be another one. But guys that didn't have production at one point in time, but then in a relatively short period of time that changed, maybe unexpectedly, maybe unexpectedly. So we'll just have to, those are the kind of decisions that you make when you have, a very experienced player versus a rookie. I think obviously when the rookie at a particular position, I'm not saying this is the case with the kicker, I'm saying generically, if you have a rookie who's already moved ahead of a player with a lot of experience, and you have every reason to think that the rookie will continue to improve, then that's a pretty straightforward decision. That's pretty easy. But it's the other way around, where those two lines are going to cross at some point between the experienced guy coming close to the end of his career and the inexperienced guy ascending to a higher level. Like, when and how does that happen? And position's a factor. Again, this is not like you can carry 7 defensive linemen. This is a kicker, so that decision is a little bit different than it is at some other spots where you can play more than one guy. But it's fundamentally it's still that I can remember those conversations going back to 1975 when I was with the Colts and Coach Marchibroda. It was the same thing then. It was this guy with experience versus this guy with inexperience, and I didn't really understand it at that point. But at that point in time, the experienced guy was in those conversations was always better. But then in the long run, that wasn't always the case, as I cited with a couple of our examples. So it's a really tough question, Mike, and it's really challenging for, I think, every coach, every team. It's not like college where you're going to have all the players all the time. Here you have to make choices. You can't keep them all, and you've got to make a decision based on and either way you could be right. When you make that decision, either way, you could be right or you could be wrong, depending on how fast or slow those tangents pass. It's a great question, though. That's the hardest part of this time of year, is those type of decisions.
My apologies to Bob Sosi and those that were with
Go ahead. We can take Bob, Stacy. I apologize for being late, so
Great.
I owe you one here.
Okay, Bob, you get the final question.
All right, Stacey, I appreciate
Especially
it.
since Bob was
Very
at
much.
Navy, we'll give a little bit extra preferential treatment for that.
I appreciate that, and it's great to see another midshipman in-house with the Pats. Bill, this time of year, today normally would be the day after the preseason finale.
Right.
And not only would you have tape of all the players around the league from the preseason, but maybe after the fourth and final game, there would be a sense of who might become available tomorrow on cutdown day. I'm curious how much not having that complicates the process for your pro staff in the next 24 to 48 hours in anticipation of who might be out there. And secondly, associated with that.
Well, let me take that. Let me take that one first, Bob, and then we'll come back to the follow up. But that's a really good question that you just asked, and I would say this year, for a couple of reasons, things are different than they normally are. I identified the situation exactly the way you described it. The fourth preseason game would have been last night, and now we're sitting here making decisions and all that, and who's going to be available. I think a couple wild cards this year are really unknowns. Are number one, the fact that every player is eligible for the practice squad that's a big change, because in the past, if you released a player that wasn't practice squad eligible, that player would be available. And honestly, that player would probably, 99% would want to play on a roster. With the practice squad, I think there's an argument for a player to, do you want to be on the practice squad knowing that you're very close to playing on a team in a situation that and you're comfortable with, versus, going to another team where as soon as they find somebody better, they might want to, replace you with somebody else. So again, it'll be interesting to see how many of the practice squad spots go to those players. So when you say are available, I'm not sure that, even though it's the same guys that might be available this year from last year, just say hypothetically you took last year's guys that were all available, if all those guys actually would have been available in this set of rules, and especially with the 3-week IR situation, I think the practice squad, if you have an experienced player on the practice squad, it's a lot easier to get them up. You have those couple free activations, you have a 3-week IR rule. So I think that might, change a little bit. The other part of that is, I think all the teams, the other 31 teams, are probably sitting there just like we are, saying, I haven't really seen, as much of this guy as what we normally would. This is a tough decision. Like, without seeing a player play who doesn't have a lot of experience, like, how confident really are you that he's better than somebody else that you've seen play? Now, again, there's some examples that are clear cut, but there's other ones that are gray, and there's other ones where the veteran players have, I would say, probably clearly played better than the rookies. But again, these guys haven't even played a game yet, so it's not a fair evaluation, yet that's the ones we have to make. And so I legitimately think that, we're in this situation, I imagine a lot of other teams are too, that we don't really know exactly what we're going to do, because we have so much less evidence than we would have from 3 preseason games. I think a lot of times in preseason, you feel like after 3 games, all right, I got a pretty good idea where this guy is. There's another preseason game. Now, maybe something will really change here based on the 4th preseason game, but I would say more often than not, it doesn't change significantly. And where you were at the end of 3 weeks is probably where you are at the end of the 4th game. Not always, but generally speaking, that's probably more true than it's not. So I think the variables this year lead to more uncertainty there. There are a few players that I feel confident that we can identify that will be available, but I think there are going to be a whole lot more that when the rosters are turned in on Saturday, that I don't want to say are surprises, but there will be some people there, and it'll be interesting to see how teams handle this rookies versus experienced players, type of, I don't know if dilemma is the right word, but, choice that they're going to have to make. So, and again, that's a great question. there's a lot less shopping of players, I would say, this year than what there would normally be, where teams could anticipate the way it was going to go. Like, you could kind of tell what other teams were going to do, for most roster spots, and you kind of knew who was available. And, if a team was going to release a player, they'd rather trade him and get something for him than release him and not get anything. So I would say it was a little more defined. Now, maybe that'll change in the next, 24 hours. It might, but I'd say that's where we are for now. So, I'm sorry. So the follow-up, Bob?
Well, I'll try to make this one quicker. Elliot Wolf has been with 2 other organizations. He's evaluated player personnel for the Packers, for the Browns. Does it help toward what you just talked about to have somebody now on your staff that can bring that perspective and knowledge of the veteran players around the league to add to what you already have in-house?
Sure. I think it's always good to have a different perspective on that. People that have been here for extended period of time, which some of them are no longer here this year. Many of them still are, but guys that have been here for a long time have a very good understanding of what we're looking for, how we do certain things, what the process is, and maybe players like this we've already talked about before and have either liked or disliked for similar reasons. You don't have that history with people that are new to the organization. It takes a little time to build that up. So that's sort of the time that we're working through. But as you identified, the plus side of it is, when you come from a different organization, especially, or 2 organizations in the last couple of years, so I have a fairly recent background of other philosophies, other ways of doing things. Certainly he's been able to help me in terms of, take a look at this. Here's the way we did this. It might be something that we've tried and we don't want to do it that way, or it might be something that's, no, I hadn't really looked at it that way. That's a pretty good idea. So, it's good to generate new ideas like that. I think, Jed Fish has done that, similar thing on offense, has, brought in some new ideas and things that we weren't familiar with. At the same time, dedicating the majority of their time to understanding and learning what we do so that, they know how those type of things apply. And, some of the other new people in the organization, whether it be, Vinny or Joe or, other people like that, guys like that. I mean, there's some of that from everybody too, but, it's good to have, a new perspective. It's also obviously very good to work with people who have been here for a sustained period of time, that have a lot of experience in our organization, in our system, that have an, intimate knowledge of, how all the inner workings are. And so I think that's a good blend to have, both ways.
Bill, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Yep. You're welcome.
Thank you very much for taking the extra time. We all appreciate it. That was a very nice bonus there. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yep. You're welcome. Thanks.
How do we inspire people to lead their healthiest lives? How do we bring everyone together so that healthcare finally works for all of us? We know how. We are the how. Optum. How well gets done.
What's my retirement savings plan? Oil, baby. Oil. Sprinkler pipe. Diane!
Ready or not.
Gillette ProGlide and ProGlide Gel. 5 blades and a pivoting flex ball designed to get virtually every hair on the first stroke while washing away dirt and oil. So you're ready for the day with a clean shave and a clean face.
For over 60 years, this team has transformed itself into a championship organization. For over 160 years, our team has demonstrated a similar mentality. There are no days off. Our front lines are fortified by people who sacrifice individuality for the team. Our shelves are also stocked with the best quality products and ingredients. Our team members know their roles. We're proud to do our jobs. Shaw's, the official supermarket of the 6-time champion New England Patriots.
My Caleb sofa and love seat. With Bob's discount, you get both pieces for just $7.99.
$7.99? Are you joking?
Do I look like I'm joking?
Yes, you look like you're joking.
I'm serious.
Cool.
Get Bob's discount! How do we inspire people to lead their healthiest lives? How do we bring everyone together so that healthcare finally works for all of us? We know how. We are the how. Optum. How well gets done.
What's my retirement savings plan?